Okay, there we go. I had to hit the record button, so thank you for joining today. We really appreciate it. Several of you have probably joined our webinars over the last year, several months, so we're very excited again to bring you what you see on the screen in the Education Playbook. And you can see it, tools, tips, and tricks for surviving the RFP season. So believe you me, we are in that season. Now, I don't know about you, but a little bit of my focus today is we're in another fun season as March Madness. So in about, about 11 minutes Central Time is tip-off of the first March Madness game. So if you guys are like me, several of you are going to be keeping up with that today as much as you can. So it's a fun time of the year, both from a sports perspective and from a perspective of our business and what we do day in and day out. And I'm going to get into that in more depth, obviously, as we go through the webinar. But first, as usual, let me get some house cleaning items out of the way, especially for those of you who have not been on one of these webinars before. And if you have, it's just a good reminder. So I always like to introduce my co-pilot, Mr. Doc Balgi. Doc is one of our technical solutions specialists. So Doc and his team assist with our trials, our NFR installs, and they help our support team on pre-sales opportunities. So Doc and his team are very valuable to what we do and to you as well. So as usual, Doc has joined me today, and a quick plug for 1 o'clock Central Time. Doc will be going through his technical version of the webinar. So if you have not registered for that, or if some of you on the call might be on the solution side of your business or IT, I recommend you go to our website and register for Doc's 1 o'clock Central Time presentation as well. So a few more house cleaning items. Let's talk about the chat box. So at the end of the call, we're going to have a trivia question, okay? And we're going to help you along the way to kind of give you some subtle hints, but there will be a trivia question in which you have an opportunity to win a prize. The answer to that trivia question has to be answered in the chat box to everyone, so don't answer it to Doc or myself privately. The first person who answers the question will win. Now, the Q&A box, if you haven't pulled that up already, up there on the right-hand side of your WebEx, pull up that Q&A box as Doc will be assisting as we go through the webinar, answer any questions that you might have. So there's house cleaning. So let's dive in here. You guys joined for a reason, not to hear me talk for 15 minutes on house cleaning items, but let's talk about education. Let's talk about the Education Playbook. Let's talk about RFPs. So let me fast forward here. Perfect. There we go. If you have joined any of our most recent webinars, you know that I am big on the landscape. I like to talk about painting the picture. I do that all the time. We're big on analogies here. You know, we believe analogies help tell the story of what we're doing, of this landscape, this vertical that we call on. And that's a very popular vertical for us as well as we get into this season that we're in with RFP season. But let's just take a look at this. I want us just for a moment to get outside the box, and I want us to get outside the box as we're going through this webinar. As we're going to talk about PaperCut, we're going to talk about some features and benefits and tie them in. But let's talk about the landscape and what education looks like to us. And you can see it here, not just K-12 and colleges or universities or colleges. There's other opportunities in education that are out there. Academic medical centers. Think about your teaching hospitals. We have several of those here in the state that I live in. We have those teaching hospitals. That's education. Prison education programs. I've had the luxury, or I've been fortunate, what I'm trying to say, to be involved in a prison education ministry with my church. Very, very neat ministry in which prisoners have the ability during 18 months to get themselves educated, get their high school diploma, things along those lines. Charter schools. There's so many opportunities out there from an education standpoint that we have. But what do we always think about typically? We think about K-12s and colleges because that's typically what comes our way. So think about your territories. Think about who you're calling on as you're cold calling, you're knocking on doors. Think about these other opportunities that are out there. But as I mentioned in the very beginning, it is RFP season, right? You guys are already, if you haven't already, the faxes, the emails, the mails coming to your office telling you to stop by their office, pick up an RFP, however you receive it. So I want to slow down just a little bit here, and I want us to think of this in more of a proactive way versus a reactive way. If you think about your day and what you do, and I'm thinking about mine as well, how many times are we really proactive in areas where we should be? Or do we spend a lot of our time reactive to things, reacting to a call, an email? Are we managing our time day to day to where it's going to benefit our business and grow our business? That's a question I ask myself every day, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. So we wanted to get outside the box here, and let's talk about RFPs. Let's get a little bit more in depth and peel back the onion. And how can you guys get in front of these versus just waiting for them to arrive? And how can we be better partners with one another to get in front of these as well? So let's look at this. We're going to start at phase one in the top right, and obviously we're going to go counterclockwise. But phase one is we're going to use May of 2017. So think about the phases of the RFP. So we're talking about phase one being May to October of 2017. That's the needs assessment. Obviously, they're getting close to the end of their lease. Typically, what are they, 60-month leases? That's what it seems like that I see mostly. Phase two, now they're planning and budgeting. We're still in 2017 here. Now we're starting to bleed into phase three, to October to February. Now we're bleeding into 2018. We're bleeding into the new year to where these RFPs are going to start being released. In phase four, bidding. This is where we get involved with you guys. What happens at that point? You reach out to your ACDI representative. You send us the RFP. Most of you are very kind, and you'll find the information on paper cut or print management that we need to look at, and you'll send that information to us. We'll look through it. We'll talk about pricing. So now we're in the bidding stage. Well, ultimately, what are you guys trying to do? You're trying to get to the top 2 or 3 so that you can go in there and do your final presentations and win them over. And then obviously phase 5, final review, selection, and purchase. This is when we'll hear from you, hey, we made it to the top 3. Now we've got a meeting set, and we need to go through everything. So it's an exciting time. It's a time where you can blow out your quota, so many different things. But if we slow down a little bit and we look at this procurement cycle, we can get ahead of this from a perspective of how can we be proactive. How many of you love RFPs? I mean, honestly, if we were to raise your hand, how many of you love combing through those 45, 50-page documents and reading all of that and putting your pricing together? You're nervous that you're not going to dot an I or cross a T. Maybe getting ahead of this might prevent a customer from going out to RFP, prevent your customer from going out to RFP. So when I think about being reactive versus proactive, there's a lot to that. Maybe being proactive helps continue to build that relationship and create that loyalty and that stickiness that you're looking for, and obviously things that we can help with. Let's keep taking it down that RFP road and a step further. This is something that I am very excited about, that our marketing team has worked very hard to do, obviously in collaboration with our sales team and you guys as we work on this. But the years of experience that we have with RFPs has allowed us to put together this RFP Proposal Packet. I can't remember how many pages this is, but in a nutshell, what is the value of this to you as our partner? Well, I look at it twofold. Number one, it can assist you in writing an RFP. That's happened before. It's real nice when that customer reaches out to you and says, listen, we've got to go out to RFP. It's a part of our guidelines. We can't avoid it. But, you guys have been a great partner with us, and we need you to help us write this. We want paper cut. We want print management, so it can help you do that. It can also help you respond to an RFP. And let me tell you what I mean by that. There are a lot of times where you get into crunch time. We get phone calls all the time. Casey, I know it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon your time, and we've got an RFP due tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. What can you do? How quickly can we turn this around? Can you read through this? Well, this will also help you answer a lot of those questions quickly. You know, what paper cut is, network requirements, just anything and everything. I don't know how well you guys can see that table of contents on the left. There's a lot of information in here that can help you answer questions versus you having to read through it or get us involved. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we don't want to help, but this is a great resource for you and can be a great resource, and then we're helping, obviously, with that pricing and putting all of that together. So in a nutshell, let's think of it a little bit different. How can we now and on a going forward basis, how can we kill the RFP season in a positive way, in a proactive way to win business over and create that loyalty and stickiness? We're here for you as a partner with you to help you do that, and we believe some of these tools will do just that. I want to keep going here. This is great stuff. Let's keep talking about education, the landscape of education. You're probably thinking, well, how does this login page have anything to do with the landscape of education? So I want us to think about PaperCut a little bit differently for just a moment. I want us to think about PaperCut as a self-serve print management software. You're probably thinking, what in the world do you mean by that? What I mean is, as the years go by and as we talk about PaperCut and as we talk about more and more opportunities, quite frankly, your customers have changed. I can rewind the hands of time 8 years ago when I got into this industry, and it's different now than it was then. It seems like every month something is different or something's changing. Customers want ease of use. They want to have a software product where I'm going to use colleges, for example, where someone can just walk in, as you see on this screen, as underneath that login screen, and they can register themselves as a new user within PaperCut. And I'm talking about a guest to the campus. I'm talking about maybe even a student that is enrolled there can easily create their own login credentials. So we have my name, email address, my nickname, and my password, and I register myself. So what have I done? I've now registered myself as a PaperCut user. So think about your customers. Think about how busy they are. Think about the times that they've told you that they don't want a lot of interaction with maybe the public or whatever. They want people to be able to come to their campus and them to be able to seamlessly utilize their facilities from a printing and or copying perspective. We're going to talk about printing right now. But once that account is created and we're here and they're able to log into PaperCut and use the system, let's take it a step further. So the user account's been created. Well, now we can take them to this. And it can all be done on a computer. You can have the links, just a step-by-step walkthrough of what they need to do. So imagine now to the left, that end user, that customer, that person is able to determine which device they want to set up. So if you're thinking on the other end right now, Casey, are you telling me that someone can create their own username and password and login credentials and can then go in and set up which device they want to print from? Is that what you're telling me? And that's exactly what I'm telling you. PaperCut has created this Mobility Print Help Center, and it is a step-by-step, easy way for them to set up their iOS device, their Mac laptop, their Windows laptop, an Android device. It doesn't matter. And what we do on the back end, I've seen it. I've seen one of our engineers do it. It's just really all about the back end configuration, and we've already, the university, for example, would have already shared the appropriate printers or copiers with them, or even the virtual print queue if they want to do Find Me printing with that setup. It's already done on the back end. Think about that for your customers. Think about being able to deliver that level of value to your customers and the questions that you're asking them. So what do those conversations look like? Well, maybe it's not always about find me printing and rules-based routing. Maybe it's about more. Maybe they're interested in things and they don't know where to turn. I've said this a million times in the past. They don't know what they don't know. They're looking for you. They're looking for us to be the experts and to be able to deliver them solutions and to get outside the box a little bit. And I think this does just that. It allows us to get ahead of things. This is huge. This is huge. This, again, self-serve, being able to walk in and as a user being able to easily set up and give me the ability to print within that environment. Let's keep going. Let's talk about the pain points. These are extremely important. I hear it every day. I've been on several meetings this week, and on every one of those, either hit every one of these pain points or they hit one or two of them that's extremely important to them. I want to focus on accountability first. We're asked all the time, how do we sell it? What do we talk about? What questions do we ask? Well, just keep it simple. Talk about accountability. How are you holding your staff and faculty accountable for what they're printing? How are you charging your students for what they're printing or copying? Start asking those questions. We like to say you can't manage what you can't measure, right? They don't know. They don't know. You talk about accountability, and believe it or not, some of our most successful partners, that's exactly what they talk about, is accountability and being able to do that within the paper-cut dashboard. Let's keep going. Let's talk about print policies for a moment to the far right. Every meeting that I've been involved with this week has said one thing. How do we control color? Color cost is out of control. We've allowed it to happen. Well, make observations on your end as you walk into these customers' offices. Do you see a lot of desktop printers sitting around? Maybe you do. You could probably assume that if you do, most of the printing from that individual is going to those desktop printers. Imagine being able to implement rules to be able to send print jobs to a more cost-effective device such as yours to eliminate or reduce color printing. There's many things that you can do, we can do, the paper cut can do for that customer when it comes to print policies. Again, continuing to hold them accountable for what they're doing. When you call on colleges, get into talk track a little bit and some of the questions that you need to ask. These are a few of the questions that I always ask. First, do you want to track staff and faculty only, or do you want to charge students as well? It's a very important question. Don't assume that they want to do it all. They might just want to charge students. They might want to just track staff and faculty and have nothing to do with the students. So ask those questions as you've gotten past the gatekeeper and you've gotten past the initial, what the product is. But we have options here. This is very important. If you have a customer that says, yes, we do want to charge our students, the next question has to be, well, how do you want those students to add money onto their paper cut account? We have options. One of the big options you see here is that they might already be using a software product that is already managing and running their campus. These are some of the four most popular ones that we run into on our end. If they're already using Blackboard, for example, the one on the top, then they're already familiar with it. Not only the staff, but the students are already familiar with how to do other things in Blackboard, such as the bookstore, buying food, library things, whatever it might be. So we have integrations with those types of products where they can actually use those products as a way to add money onto their paper cut account. So ask them, are you using a campus card or a software product that's managing your college, your campus? And if so, What are you using? Well, let me tell you, they might be using Blackboard, but these products also rebrand for the school. For example, I'll use my beloved Arkansas Razorbacks, for example. They're probably using one of these products, but maybe they call it Razorback Bucks, and that's what it says on the card. So if you see something like that, know that it's probably one of these products just rebranded for that university. But I'm telling you, this is a very important piece of the conversation that you need to have with them to ensure that we quote them and set them up correctly. Let's keep going. We're still on cost savings and adding money. So talk about PayPal. We have other payment gateways that we are familiar with. PayPal, Authorize.net, and also our hardware. I want to talk about our hardware for just a moment. Some of you might have attended our November webinar last year in which we talked about our hardware. Some of you might not be very familiar with our CoinOps, for example. If not, you can go to our website. You can listen to that presentation that I went through. This is important because our hardware can be used as a pay station as well. I can take that CoinOp you see on this screen, and we can couple on the far right there. You see the CoinOp and that touchscreen monitor. We can do that, and we can make that an actual pay station for your customer. So, same with a guest copy in print. Maybe they want a CoinOp in the library where they can just have a patron walk in and make a copy or pay for a print. So these are questions you're going to want to ask as well, maybe specifically for the library area. We see it all the time where we'll implement a full-blown paper cut solution for, with the embedded licenses and logging in and releasing print jobs, find me printing, rules-based routing, and then they might want a simple hardware solution for the library as well. Our hardware can play a big role in what your customers are trying to accomplish. Same with our card readers and any other of our payment solutions. We definitely have those as well. Let's keep going. Let's talk about security. This shouldn't be new to any of you if you've sold paper cut, but what I want to point to in that paragraph is the PII, personal identifiable information. Excuse me, I'm talking way too fast here. But any organization, even education, not just healthcare, is responsible for personal information and making sure that something is not sitting on a machine that anyone can pick up. So keep that in mind. You can talk about security that way with your customers. That might be their primary concern, is that they don't need documents with personal information just sitting on a copy machine. They could get a lawsuit. They don't want to deal with that. The fines are very steep for those types of violations. So keep that in mind as well. Security is still very important. Obviously, authentication at your devices and print archiving, these are things that we do as well. Something that's very popular, obviously, amongst most, if not all, of our education implementations. I cannot state this enough about mobility. We talk about mobility printing a lot, so much that we did a webinar series on mobility printing last year as well. This is something that you could revolve your talk track around. Do you need to print from mobile devices? This is a K-12 opportunity. Do all of your classrooms have a Google Chromebook or an iPad? Let them answer those questions. Tell them that you have a solution that will allow them to print from those devices and track those print jobs. This is important, and I believe that this is going to continue to gain a lot of traction. But let me clarify something with mobility. Stats show that only 4% of mobility printing takes place from a phone or a tablet, with 96% of the mobility printing taking place from a personal laptop. That's where they want to print from. They want to be able to walk in and print from their Windows laptop or their Mac laptop. Well, guess what? About 7 or 8 slides ago, I went through a self-serve setup in which they could do just that very easily. So you can, with confidence, walk in and talk about mobility printing, not only for the mobile devices, but for the laptops as well, and tie that in to the self-serve option that PaperCut can offer your customer. Stick with me just a few more minutes, folks. We're about done. This is exciting stuff, though, and as you can see, I get passionate about it when I'm talking. Accessibility. Few things here. Obviously, Find Me printing there in the middle. That's a staple feature, obviously, of this product. Most of you understand what that is, being able to release a print job anywhere. Integrated scanning is a feature that's compatible with several of our product lines with PaperCut that you offer. So a very neat feature that once authenticated at the device, it's very easy to navigate for print release or copy tracking or even scanning to destinations or certain network folders. Group type settings can be implemented as well with integrated scannings on how we want certain groups to scan. So a very nice feature for your customers as well. Job ticketing. If you attended our PaperCut version 18.0 last month, I did not do that presentation. Doc did for me. Job ticketing is our newest release. We're very excited about this. So what is this doing? Well, you can see it there. It's allowing your colleges to be able to charge back for print lab or fab labs. Print rooms is what we call them. So one thing I want to get out of the way first is how is job ticketing licensed? It's licensed per print room. So remember that. That's very important. If you were to bring this up and talk about job ticketing with one of your customers, you're going to want to ask them how many rooms they have, how many print rooms do they have. If they have 3 different campuses, all with their own print lab, then it's going to be licensed for those 3 rooms. So it's very simple. Now, there will be applicable install fees and things like that on top of that. But this is big, guys. We were very excited about this release because this now gives a staff member, a student, whomever, the ability to send their print job, make a request, and have that print lab or that print room be able to work on that job and then bill it back to or charge it back to that individual or maybe that individual's department if they're a staff member. So this is gaining a lot of traction. So we can visit it with you about it a little bit more in depth if you'd like. Just please reach out to your representative here with ACDI and we can have a more in-depth discussion. But think about this when you're calling on especially higher education, as they're going to have those print rooms, and this is something that's going to be of interest. So we're real excited about job ticketing. Again, remember, it's licensed per room. As you all well know, if you've attended our webinars in the past, we're compatible across the board with all of the different OEM brands out there, the different Windows, Mac, Linux, and Novell operating systems. And, of course, something that we talked about last week on this webinar, we are compatible in not only a print server environment, but also a direct printing environment. So let me clarify because we did have some questions. We're talking about direct printing, basically no print servers involved. We're printing directly from that workstation to the IP address to the copy machine. So we are compatible in there. You don't lose any features or functionality with that. We're seeing that a lot in our small to medium businesses that maybe they don't have a print server network or that type of infrastructure built, but we have your customer covered no matter what environment they're in. I love to point to a couple of bullet points on the left. The ROI, cost effectiveness, things that you've heard us say over the years, a very easy software to install and configure, and obviously things that we can help you and your customer with along the way. A few of our success stories. Guys, we do have some success stories and some case studies that we can provide if those are of need. And then our services. You're well aware of our installation services. We have different teams within our professional services division. I want to make sure that you understand that. We have our install team. They are working once a work order is received or sent. We have project coordinators that are there to work with you and the customer to arrange the pre-install call, and then, of course, the install. And then once the install is complete, we have our support desk, as you see on the far right. So we have a team of individuals who are answering those calls and emails and helping your customer with potential upgrades if they want to upgrade to the latest version of PaperCut. And then integration. Integration is big. We have developers that can integrate with third-party softwares with PaperCut. We see that a lot in the legal industry and wanting to integrate with existing billing software products. We have a lot to offer when it comes to our services from an install, support, and integration perspective. We're glad you're a partner with us. We're glad that you've joined this call today. And we have a lot to offer, and we've talked about a lot of it today and how it all ties into education. So where do we go from here? Well, I just mentioned it a few moments ago. We've gone over a lot of information. We've gone over a landscape, painting the picture, what does education look like. We've talked about RFPs, how we can just do well during the RFP season, but also how we can be more proactive and get ahead of the RFP